some more Pope. So I do think they are genuinely mourning the Pope, giving it a process. I don't know how this goes, to be honest with you. One sec. Okay. I don't know how this goes, to be honest with you. I don't know the process and the time frame, but we are going to pull some cards and see what we get. And I want to use this deck. So we'll look at the Vatican's energy, all right? I did ask if anyone wants a reading. I do ask, and you know, if you don't respond, I just feel that you're not really interested in that. I mean, everyone goes off on do you know what Virginia Giuffre's reading? So you're probably just fed up thinking, well, I know, you know what I mean? The other day what popped up is people still doing readings and covering Jay Slater case. And obviously they're doing it because people are still interested in it. And you really have to ask yourself, why are you so hooked on it? There's something wrong there. I don't mean this in a rude way, but like, we get attached to stuff, and it could be just to disconnect from life, being, if life is a bit shit at the moment, so you're just watching something so that you're kind of like distracting and escapism. I do it, we all do it, but check in with yourself. Is it because of that, or is it something else? Or is it because, disclaimer, this is for entertainment purposes only? Okay, so let's look at comes out straight out the back. I'm asking about showing me the Vatican at this time. It's come out, so it's confirming that it's showing me it. It's definitely looking at who's next. Okay, it is actually quite excited for this new chapter. It seems like they're doing their process as it should be. So whether that's the voting, they're pulling together, looking at the different popes. But yeah, that's their energy at the moment. Told to look at the bottom of the deck, Hermit. But they're also being quite quiet and wise about it. They're respecting, which I was saying, the Pope who recently passed. Now, there's also an energy of August, September time. So I wonder if the new Pope, I don't feel this is the old Pope's energy. The new Pope could have a significance of energy around that time, or birth or something around that time. It seems like they're looking for someone who can hold the light and be the wise one in this area. So, you know, there's something about the white smith has gone up, I guess. And the holding of the lamp with that, with what I saw. I do feel like they're mourning the loss of the Pope. I do think so. Like, it's a big loss. The background process is giving, but they're giving time to respect, as they do feel this a big loss. The new Pope, it seems to be giving me a bit of a hard time. Yeah, look at this. To tell me, planting seeds for the longevity of this new Pope. Definitely the mourning and the heavy burden of trying to replace Pope Francis. Very strong cards of ending, heaviness here. That is currently, I think, even around this new Pope. Maybe he's mourning, even though it could be an exciting time for him, or the Vatican are feeling an exciting time. He seems to be pretty much in mourning, this Pope. Tell us more about the new Pope. so weird card. So the Judgment's on the bottom of the deck, okay. There's a female energy here, and I know that, well, I don't think a female could take over, but there is a female presence here, and it seems like she's silencing something about the Pope. I asked about the new Pope, so could it be something about the new Pope? And that will come to light. The new Pope will be from overseas, I believe. When we see that Hermit card, it could be someone who's very wise, who's going to hold the light in the time of like world disruption, a strong position on peace around the world, you know, looking at that and the conflict that's happening around the world, and what new healing can they bring with togetherness. Yet it seems like they're quite sharp, and say what they need to say, and we've got a confirmation here of a male coming into the you know, the position. So there will be a replacement. I saw before we knew the Pope was not well, and I didn't know until afterwards. I remember I got a question on here like this asking about the Pope, and I didn't know he wasn't well. So it could be someone who comes in this troubled climate and really brings some wisdom, some science, some knowledge, and really looking at peace at this moment in time. And there's that Hermit card. But it seems like they're mourning quite a bit at this moment in time as well. Now, I do see the continuation of Tesla spiraling. If you remember last year, I said that the UK are going to still try to push a lot of electric cars. And we did see that, but we were not going to have it. They're not going to sell on it. And now with Tesla like this, I think it's going to be a much more heavier impact. Not only that, there's added costs, isn't there, with the electric cars. I did mention that there's troubled time for Trump until like the beginning week of May, in terms of high energy of another assassin, you know, April to the beginning of May. What I found out is, which I'd seen the vision in the April, where I said there's a teen, and I think I mentioned it in May again to recap, that I could see a teen watching Trump, and apparently there was a teen who exed his parents and was starting to then look at going after Trump, okay. And then apparently there's a man in Pennsylvania that was plotting and watching Duck as well. These have been found out. I think the teen might have been found out through maybe what he did to his parents, and then they found proof of it. So that's very validating, and it didn't go through. I didn't see Duck being out of his role. I do think there could be something, not in the next 3 months, that could come up of an attempt or a plotting again, but I think for now it should calm down once we pass the first sort of week of May. Let's pull some cards on Carney. I also want to mention, you know, the ongoing conflict between Israel and Palestine, and it's okay to speak for the Palestinians, right? It's okay to speak for humanity, because there's a continuation of stopping food to them. There's famine there, and people might think that by donating to the UN and to international charities that it always reaches them. it doesn't always reach them, especially those higher organizations. I'd go into the fund me organizations that are probably not based in the Western regions, where they can directly get some help. That also means that if any country is pushed to take some Palestinians, they will do it because they're starved and they need to eat, even though they don't want to leave their land because it's the last bit of overtaking by Israel. So I go back to say it's okay to speak for the Palestinians. I'm not saying about overtaking a country with protests, but it's okay to speak for humanity and truth. And I've seen some channels doing coverage and channelings of like a family that were held hostage by Hamas. And there shouldn't be these hostages, but also I think we need to watch what we listen to with the media, because it's very clear, like it was clear when there was the presidential elections, that who, even though they said they're unbiased, whether it's tarot readers or coverers, channel covering the election, the check-ins, if they were for the Democrats or if they were for the Republicans. And so they might say they're unbiased, but you can pick up on the state, the silence words in between the words. And a lot of people are so uneducated that they keep saying that this is between the Muslims and the Jews. And it's not that, and it's beyond that. When an animal is going extinct, we tend to fight for it. Yet there is no fighting for the Palestinians not to go extinct. It's very sad. Canada. So Carney won. Let's pull cards on Carney. You know that I said that in Canada's current state, here was the energy that they needed in the current state and the stagnation. So he really feels that he has all the resources. Is he married, by the way? I feel like his potential wife, or if he's got a Secretary of State, she has a very big influence on him, or he listens to her. I'm not saying that she's saying do this and he does it, but she does have some kind of way of assisting him. He believes he has all the resources, and he believes that he can take up duck, right? He believes that also he wants to portray this image in his own way of having the success that Duck has had around the world, but he's definitely feeling in his ego that I am going to take up the trade tariffs, the war, and Duck. And if you remember, in either the beginning of this year in the themes or last year, I said America will realize it needs Canada a lot more than what it thinks it does at this moment. And I don't know if that's coming through yet or if it will be later. So he definitely feels he has all the powers. He could be seen as rushing in to take action. He definitely has it a priority on the trade tariffs to take action and communicate something new around that, around the balancing of the rates, a balancing of the tariffs and deals if possible, because there's a lot of monetary issues in Canada. There is this illusion of success from this energy, though he needs to be upfront with Canada here that it's not going to be an easy battle to do this, especially around trade, around money, etc. Okay, and it might take some time. So I think he might end up indirectly saying that he needs some patience. Some patience is needed. It's the Three of Swords at the bottom, where, you know, Canada is really, you know, feeling at its end of its tether. And I think, you know, with your new president, you should be actually celebrating. So are you celebrating? He needs to be upfront on what he's thinking, any deals he's going to be taking. I think Trump might rattle a little bit by bringing up this. There was the thing about the 51st state, wasn't there? So I think Trump might bring that up again. He might bring that up again. And I don't think the total feeling of the tariffs pain has been felt in Canada yet. What is being felt is the stagnation of the economy and the issues, maybe a lack of jobs, etc. He does need to be flexible around certain things that might not work out how he wants them to in the beginning. He does need to be flexible on that, because it's not going to be easy. It's not only about ducking his tariffs. So that's what I see there. We'll have to see further down the line what comes out on him. Right. So I mentioned in a previous reading that I do think there's going to be waterborne virus, and I do see a virus coming out of Africa, or planted, if it's not a true one, in Africa. Okay, so there's big risk of a waterborne virus as well. Remember, in the themes I said it's really important this year to ground ourselves. Okay, can you imagine that we're in May, we're almost halfway down the year, so let's go back to some of the things I've mentioned, where I said for this year the economy is not going to be easy for, you know, the world economy is not going to be easy this year. And there's going to be ongoing conflicts and chaotic energy, where there's order and disruption that are in conflict at this moment in time. And you can see it at a global scale, and you will see it in your countries as well. The economy globally is going to change, and there are some countries that are actually going to be paying prices for their karmic debts this year. And I'm not going to state, I'm going to leave it as that, okay? You're going to see that though. And I think technology, AI, again, I've mentioned it before, big this year with resources beyond what you think. Like social media is going to be transformed, sound's going to be transformed beyond what you think it could be. It's going to come through. Biotech is very big this year, and technology is messy with AI, because there's a taking over of resources. My camera just flicked there. It was very interesting. And I think I see China investing heavy in sort of AI and stuff. Okay, it could be around also military stuff, resources, AI, tech, just so that it can also try and take over the USA supremacy. I mentioned about the cosmos, the space being very big this year, and the space economy, an area of the space and the borders is going to be kind of ongoing, and just, you know, I don't know, conflict around that. There's something coming up with that. I mentioned about cyber hacking in my last one, and someone said to me that M&S, Harrods, and a co-op in the UK has had big cyber hacking. So I've mentioned about that. Now, even on an individual level, because even personally, a couple of weeks ago, whether it's me or a family member, a card dispute was raised where a transaction was done, and the card is with the person, but they get a notification that this is you've just had a deduction from this supermarket, and it's not in the UK. It's actually in a country that doesn't usually have such fraud because there's big penalties. So look at that for yourselves, pay attention, because it's big cyber hacking. And also a lot of data leaks are going to be coming out this year as well. And I think we're going to see more about countries leaking data by taking over also other countries' data that they shouldn't really have. I mentioned this last year. I mentioned in the UK we have to be very careful because I can see some of our data going overseas, whether it's their knowledge of the banks or something like that, data being shared with different countries. Crypto disputes, I see that coming up this year as well, and countries wanting to invest heavily in crypto to try and stabilize their economy. And this also means stability, blockchain. They might try to invest in blockchains as well, because of the uncertainty of the economy this year. There is still going to be a lot of retaliation against tariffs. I think Trump is going to keep his foot down. Okay, blockchain will witness maybe an increased investment. It's going to be affecting the banking system. Again, this is worldwide, in your country, certain countries, if not all. It's not only US. There's going to be like a tech war. And I see this could be not necessarily between these countries, but there's something here around China, Brazil, India, whether it's their innovation, but there's a tech war that will happen. And these countries are involved in some way, could be different ways, different time frames. I've mentioned about different pacts and alliances that are happening with the countries, and I mentioned this will be a theme this year, and we can see it definitely has been triggered by the trade tariffs that was going. I do think there's going to be a public dissatisfaction in May, possibly June, with the US inflation. So we're going to have to watch out for that. You'll have to let me know. Canada, still feeling quite stagnant. Some people very dissatisfied this year. That's coming up. The UK, I will go into a bit more details and pull cards on KeirS as well. But the UK economy, again, still very much a bit of shambles. If they introduce or invest in services, it's going to increase our taxes. And I think they take enough money as it is. I would go to King Charles's reading where I did for the UK, because I do think there's a heavy energy there, and he needs to be careful of a betrayal, I think I said, something close to him. And I feel this energy significant in mid-May, that he's going to reach a conclusion. And when I say a conclusion, an end, that's it. He's made up his mind about something. This could be a conclusion on a personal front. It could be another conclusion. It could be a conclusion on world issues that he decides to, voice. Obviously, personal issues could be chaos that's behind the doors. We might not know about it. So, but mid-May, definitely King Charles has that. I feel like it's definitely around mid-May it's coming up. I'd say between the 10th and 15th. We might hear of something. I do think the EU from the 10th to 20th of May, there's possibly a big crisis. And then it could be around November time, end of October, November time, that something else comes up for the EU. And that is a crisis that they're in, a crisis that happens with the EU. So we need to look out for that. I never remember stuff, so it's difficult. I wish like I had someone that could cut clips for validation. Because some of these, you know, like what I just said, I'm not going to remember November. I don't even remember the last one I did unless Spirit brings it to me. So the economic war and 2026, we will see. So this year is more or less more economic war with the conflicts. In 2026, we might see if it escalates further. I'm going to say we might, because I don't want to plant fear or anything. Then will military resources needed for certain countries and certain routes and certain places? We'll see that in 2026. We'll tap into it. I think China, you know, I said about them trying to take over. I think they're going to come forward with a surprising AI innovation. Okay. It could be military, it could be tech. They're going to come forward with something quite surprising. In that region, including Taiwan and India, we could see a bit of trickles of a sign of a Cold War happening. So we need to be careful with that. I do think Korea and South Korea is coming up in the news. I feel a very strong, stubborn ego energy there. So watch out for that, because that is boiling. There's a boiling pot where he wants to come forward, like some focus on them. India, I do think there's going to be a major scandal. Okay, if it's not India, in that region this year, and there's going to be financial scandals in India as well. There's going to be the religion polarize and conflict in India because of what's just kicked off, and several countries around the world. Biotech is going to be big for the economy. Or is going to be the big theme this year. The economy is not going to be the greatest, like I've said. Real estate may grow. I gave you some dates in the last prediction where, you know, you might want to check mortgage or interest rates in May and take advantage of that. Remember, in the yearly predictions, I mentioned this year there's going to be a massive focus on metals. I see meat coming in, like cows, meat, mining, a metal surge. So we might see an increase in mining and metal surge. It could be an increase also in profits. Now go back to my last reading. I actually said about industrial regulations that need to happen for things like mining and stuff, but metals, I think if you are in the metal, anything to do with metals, even mechanics, mining, it's positive for you this year. I think Trump mid-May, given I spoke about King Charles, he is going to be either he's going to be crowned with something like he did something really peaceful and amazing thing, or something's going to go absolutely AWire for him between, I'd say again, around I'm getting the 8th to like the 16th of May, a particularly high energy. It could be any time in May, but I'm getting those dates in particularly. It could be, you know, something peace with Ukraine and Russia, and he's sort of crowned as the achievement. Or it could be something that goes very, very wrong. Maybe that he does for the US or something. But there's some sort of public dissatisfaction that I could see, which I mentioned, and tensions that rise mid-month. So really look out for the 9th to the 15th of May for big tensions, and the May themes that I mentioned coming forward. And I've given some dates where I've spanned a couple of days in, a couple of days out from the exact dates that I see. now I understand someone said there was a Ukraine deal done. Okay. So in the next one, I'm going to look at the Ukraine deal, Putin, and a bit more on Trump. Okay. Actually a lot more on Trump in the next one. So what I'll do is I'll continue. No, I'll look at it in the next one, but let's look at Putin. And then I'll do the Ukraine deal and Ukraine in the next one because Duck is involved. So Putin, I feel like, you know, in a couple of readings, I said that he needs to be careful, and his government needs to be careful, because I feel like he knows he needs to end this war because of the cost of the war for Russia and the implications that are going to be turning negative already or very, very soon. Already, I mean, from the date you see this, as I'm recording this at the end of April, members Patreon, you'll see it first via the link if you've not joined me right now. And but yeah, I'm going to look at the deal resources question in a moment, and but I'll pause for the recording and connect back. But he needs to be careful. Like, he knows he needs to pull out, but he's also he wants it on his terms, and I don't know the history around this. So someone who knows, I mean, you could be in the UK. I've got some really wise subscribers in the UK and the US, and they know things where they're probably like, she attempts to read, she gets it right, but then fill in the little gaps for me even to validate. So he believes Ukraine is an important part of Russia's heritage and necessary, and it's beyond ego. So it's really strange because he has this energy like it's really important part of the heritage of Russia, which is very dangerous when you see something like that, because you're not going to give up. Yet he's in this thing that he's seeing the cost implications, and he's like, I need out, but I don't want to say I want out. So if something comes his way where he can protect his ego, I think he will I don't want to say pull out, because he's not going to stop right now, but he's going to calm things down a little bit. And in the next one, I'm going to look at the Ukraine and the deal resources and a little bit more on Duck. Okay, so I'm going to stop this here, and I will continue though, because if I get up, you might not see me continue. So economy is not going to be recovered this year, but I do think the last quarter of this year is a lot easier than the first half, which I mentioned in my themes for this year. And also May is a time to take a breather. Is anyone traveling in May? Let me know. I know the summer months are coming up. Is anyone traveling, or you're staying where you are? If you're traveling, you've taken my advice not to go via cruise ships, or take that cruise that you've been waiting 50 years of your life to take, and you decide to take it now, but don't. No, seriously, if you've booked something, go, have faith in God. God is the protector. God, Almighty God, knows more than, you know, any of us at this moment in time. I just try to bring through prophecy, hoping that if a voice needs to be given to bring awareness for us, to guide us, that I get those spirit messages or the guidance down to me. But ultimately it's God that says be, and it's be, right? So, you know, that's what it is. So let's continue, okay? And if you catch this as a separate segment, grab your coffee and come back.